Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Backup and Disaster Recovery as a Service with Veeam Cloud and Service Providers. So we're going to be talking about, some of the thoughts behind where the industry is at with regards to, where data is being created, where it lives, and then how Veeam Cloud and Service Providers can actually help you on your journey with regards to data protection. And, I'm going to be joined by a great Veeam Cloud and Service Provider a bit later on, and one of our great customers. So let's get going live, guys. Okay, so first, it's no surprise to everyone that data is being created everywhere these days. On-premises, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, edge, mobile devices, endpoints. It's just being created everywhere, right? And where else maybe, 5-10 years ago, everyone was saying that eventually everyone is going to be on the cloud. It's going to be public cloud and nothing else. There really is no panacea when it comes to that. Okay, we understand now that we are very much living in this multi-cloud, hybrid cloud world, which also extends now to edge and endpoints as well. And that's being driven by hybridity, right? So hybridity is defined by the edge now. And what do I mean by that? Well, we always knew that when we were creating applications and workloads, they had to sit somewhere. And traditionally, this was in a back office somewhere. That slowly moved into data centers as these became popular, as the internet became, a thing back in the 90s and in the early 2000s. And that slowly evolved into what we call partner-hosted infrastructure as a service. Okay, that was the dominant way that someone went and hosted their actual applications. Now, larger enterprises obviously did that under their own auspices. They built their own data centers, their own servers, their own resources to host applications. But essentially, that was infrastructure as a service as well. Now, as we've moved through the years and the public clouds have taken hold, we're now looking to see more edge-defined computing like VMware Cloud on AWS, Google, Azure. There's a whole heap of AWS services that are driven towards VMware supportability now. But also, if we look at the other parts around where workloads are being hosted, we look at Google Cloud Platform, which we mentioned. Obviously, Danny just mentioned the fact that we're releasing Veeam Backup for Google Cloud Platform. So that's an indication from us at Veeam that workloads are shifting there. When you look at what AWS has done with regards to edge computing with AWS Outposts, which is effectively a whole rack style AWS, which is shifted and actually shipped to a customer, but then consumed like AWS, but is purely done on premises or at the edge. And then Azure Stack, Cloud Stack, this is just another example of traditional infrastructure as a service turned public cloud, turned edge computing. And then if we look at collaboration and mobility, that's definitely always been a bit leading edge when it comes to data being created in different locations. And because of that, the actual market for backup and disaster recovery has boomed. It isn't booming, it has boomed, okay? People now understand that they do need backup and disaster recovery that is based not only on premises, but also in the cloud. So we look at offsite backup, that's always been important. Not always in this industry. I mean, for the longest time, it was held with tapes on site on that premises, but we understood we had to take those tapes off-site as well. Now, offsite backup is more modern, leveraging cloud providers that we're going to talk about, like PHOENIXNAP later on. Cloud backup itself is important, right? When we talk about cloud backup, we're talking about the fact that you need to be able to back up the workloads that sit in the cloud. Those workloads that you're running in the cloud need to be backed up. Now, with object storage, we're added the ability to back up longer term for cheaper. The fundamental shift of what was more expensive storage to cheaper storage. And object storage has opened up a whole raft of innovations, and Veeam has been on board with that with our capacity tier. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit more with regards to V11 and the archive tier in certain sessions a little bit later on. Replication, interesting. So replication is something that I feel still hasn't taken hold completely in the industry, right? The understanding that this is where you take a workload and replicate it almost in real time with low RPOs to another location. And then more importantly, have a quick on button. So no recovery, instant instantation of a workload. So this is something that's becoming more and more popular as technology improves, as communication improves. Danny talked about the fact that we're at a real golden age of technology being driven by the pandemic. And I think the turning point or an inflection point with regards to replication as a service is definitely shifting. And then we finish up with long-term retention. So long-term retention now is all about this compliancy, this regulation. Understanding now with things like GDPR and other compliancy regulations, you have to store your data for longer. So data is not only being created quicker, bigger, but you have to actually store it longer, right? And, whereas years ago, I can remember talking about, backing up our hosted Exchange system for 7 years retention. That seemed to be the golden number. Now I talk to customers and they're talking about 99-year retentions, right? So long beyond our lifetimes, we won't care about it, but fundamentally this regulation dictates that we need long-term retention. And when you look again and pair that with object storage, you can see the way that the industry is moving. So now that we know that data is growing, it's moving from an on-premises to the edge to a hybrid cloud to a multi-cloud world. We know that data displacement is real. And what do I mean by data displacement? Well, it's pretty simple, right? Before we understood that we knew where data was being created, as IT administrators, we knew that our employees were creating data on this particular workstation in this particular office. Now, with this day and age, again, with the pandemic and people working from home, data is being created almost everywhere. And that increases the probability for digital displacement. Okay, and that leads itself to something that you guys have probably heard over the past few years, that there is no more valuable resource than data. Now, people have talked about this with regards to data being the new oil. Okay, now I would actually argue that and challenge it and say that data is more like uranium. Okay, because there is no dangerous resource that needs to be protected. Okay, and Veeam offers a technology to be able to protect that resource, right? But when you think about uranium, we're talking about something that is very, very hard to manufacture, to refine, and then more importantly, to store, okay? And then also when it gets into the wrong hands, it's extremely dangerous, okay? So this is why I actually think when you think about data, don't think about it like oil, think about it like uranium. And that leads us to the cloud data management platform, right? Which Veeam has been talking about for a while. And how do service providers fit into this? At the heart of it, data is your data. Okay, I've been talking about that from the start, right? So the fact that you are creating data in private cloud, public clouds, on premises, it doesn't really matter where you create the data, but it is your data. It all starts with backup and recovery, and that's where our great service providers definitely come into play. And as we move around the circle here, we obviously talk about governance and compliance, which we talked about a little bit earlier. Orchestration, automation, critically important, being able to repeatedly execute on data protection strategies. That's a tooling for that. And that's also important when thinking about, leveraging cloud-based backup technology and DR technologies. Monitoring and analytics, understanding where that data is, where it's sitting, and how you can get to it when it's ready. And then critically, this point is so important, cloud mobility, okay? Understanding that when you back up data, when you send it to an offsite location, when you send it to a Veeam backup repository, whether it be, in the form of an offsite backup through Cloud Connect, or it be on your cloud provider or in the public cloud, how mobile is that data? How do we enable the mobility of that data just in case you need to actually recover it in a different location? And that all leads us to Veeam-powered backup as a service and DR as a service, underpinned by our great Veeam cloud and service provider partners. So for years, actually for 10 years, we've been driving great technology through our cloud provider partners. Infrastructure protection, offsite backup and disaster recovery, and more recently, public cloud protection. And these all fit under our universal services of migration, mobility, automation, and security as well. And when we look at these actual offerings, right, how we offer and how we enable our providers, infrastructure protection, this is our bread and butter. We've been doing it for years. I started doing this way back when I was in my previous roles, looking after cloud platforms, needing great, reliable backup sources. Veeam was there to back up traditional workload VMs, whether they be Hyper-V, whether they be VMware, more recently AHV, and as we move into the public cloud. However, Veeam has always been there for our service providers through Veeam Backup and Replication and our Veeam agents. Now, that's for service provider data protection, infrastructure as a service. If we look at managed service providers, MSP backups, again, this has always been critical here. We offer Veeam Service Provider Console as that centralized tooling to be able to offer those MSPs the ability to offer reseller type services, all with Veeam services, again, Veeam agents, Veeam One, and Veeam Backup and Replication. I think centrally to this, offsite backup and DR as a service. Now, offsite backup has been a cornerstone of Veeam for so long with Veeam Cloud Connect. It's still very unique, industry first. technology, which is still very unique in the industry today in terms of that method to actually connect and simplify the hardest part of cloud backup and DR as a service, which is that connectivity between the target and the source, okay, or the source and the target. Now, Veeam Cloud Connect does that, and we've extended that more recently with the Veeam capacity tier, the performance tier, which is an extension of our scale-out backup repository, moving it to an object storage repository. But then, as I said before, around replication. Now, DR as a service, or DRaaS, again, with Cloud Connect replication, going into Cloud Director, vCloud Director as it was, that's an important cornerstone and something that our cloud providers offer as a great alternative to get that replica set into off your on-premises location and into a cloud-based situation. And then public cloud protection, which is something that is moving forward today. Now, this probably hasn't matured a lot for our cloud providers to the moment, but over the next 3 to 6 months, you'll start to see a lot of a change of narrative from Veeam with regards to how our providers are able to leverage these great technologies that we've released as part of the Veeam backup and replication platform. So backup for AWS, backup for Azure, now more recently, again, just released Veeam backup, Veeam backup for Google Cloud. All these are going to be leveraged by our cloud providers, and they're going to be able to build services around these, okay? Offer some sort of managed services around this. And this is all about having the ability to have awareness and control of those backups. And more importantly, I think, it's something that's been significantly large and popular for us over the past sort of 2 to 3 years, is SaaS data protection. The Veeam backup for Office 365 has been embraced by our cloud and service providers. And not only is it a great product for on-premises, but our cloud providers have been able to offer this in a multi-tenant sense for their own tenancies to be able to back up Office 365, SharePoint, OneDrive, and now with version 5, Teams. So again, it's very important to be able to get there and actually see how Veeam enables end-to-end the backup of SaaS, public cloud, do offsite disaster and recovery, and replication as a service, and also be so strong on infrastructure as a service as well. So, it's a really important thing to think about out there if you guys are looking for a partner with a mind to go and actually do infrastructure as a service backup, to do Cloud Connect backup, to do offsite backup, or to protect your public cloud workloads. That's where we enable our great cloud and service providers to do the job. And with that, I think it's time to welcome William and Bipin together. So William is from PHOENIXNAP, one of our greatest cloud providers that is out there. And Bipin is VP and Chief Information Officer of Make-A-Wish. How you going, guys?
Morning, Anthony.
Morning, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. It's evening here. We are just want to point out, and I probably haven't said this, we are actually doing this legitimately live. Yeah. So it's actually 11:20 p.m. here in Perth. But this is the great thing about the internet, right? I get to interview guys halfway across the world and talk about great technology. So let's just spend the next 10 to 15 minutes having a chat about how PHOENIXNAP has enabled Make-A-Wish to leverage the Veeam technologies and help them through their digital transformation journey. So just basically from the start, Bipin, maybe just introduce us to Make-A-Wish and give us a bit of an overview to the company, what you guys do, and then technically where you're at as an organization.
Sure. Thank you for that. And again, good evening, good afternoon to everybody. Happy to be here as part of the Veeam live event. And just a quick run into Make-A-Wish. So Make-A-Wish is a premium nonprofit organization started here, based out of here in Phoenix, but we operate as 60 chapters, think of business units across the United States, and of course, 40 plus affiliates across the globe. We grant wishes to wish kiddos who go through critical illnesses, anywhere from 2.5 years old to 18 years old. And we do close to 16,000 wishes a year here in the United States, and most of the wishes are granted through these chapters. So think of it as headquarters based here in Phoenix and 60 chapters, which essentially they are 501c3 themselves, which meant 5 years back they were running their own CRM systems, in their own servers, their own financial packages, softwares, and multiple other things, enabling that wish granting process. So 5 years back, what we did was the first few steps, as in any IT journey, was the notion of consolidation. So the headquarters took it upon, our national office took it upon ourselves to bring all of that operational minutiae back to Phoenix, and we wanted the chapters to kind of let them be free to go do what they do best, which is granting wishes. So we partnered with PHOENIXNAP, and we've been with them since 2003. We had actually originally had started moving some of our workloads into a colo model, and then we had our own private cloud hybrid models, cloud models with PHOENIXNAP. And so, we've been partnering with them, and 5 years back when we did all of the enterprise, basically bringing all the workloads back into data centers, we were running on VMs, we were running on virtual machines, and we really needed something as a backup and replication, and hence we picked Veeam to partner with us on that journey.
Okay. So really, from what I was talking about earlier, you guys are really the epitome of this multi-hybrid cloud model, right? Where you were distributed, you were dispersed. So, you had that sense of data disruption, right? Because, there was no, from what I'm hearing, what the chapters were almost independent, and you needed to basically set a direction when you came in to get them all into line and basically have a similar strategy moving forward. And PhoenixNAP played a big part of that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, true. Absolutely. That's essentially the story in one sentence. If you
nice. Got it in one. Hey, just quickly before we move into more of the technology, I believe that I wanted to touch on some of the human side of this, because obviously, you guys do great things for a lot of needy individuals, and I think Veeam has helped you guys along the journey. Do you just want to talk a little bit how Veeam has helped Make-A-Wish grant some of these wishes, I believe, for some of these
Sure,
kids?
definitely. I mean, Veeam has not only been a technology partner, but as with some of the partners that we work with, when you see the business side of it, and then they want to participate then in the mission side too. And where Veeam has come to play is, they had taken upon themselves last year to actually grant wishes. So we have a program where somebody can sponsor wishes, and through that grant, we actually granted 5 wishes from Veeam, and
that's fantastic.
They continue to do fabulous work with us. So thank
you. Yeah, no worries. That's great, and I wouldn't expect anything less from Veeam trying to help out there in the world, right? Give something back. Okay, let's bring it back to the technology now. Let's chat about this. So, William, just very quickly, I think we're going to flip over this slide. I think let's give a little bit of an overview yourself as to PhoenixNAP. And basically then I think bring it back a little bit before we go into the next slide, which is a cool architecture diagram. But just talk a little bit about the Veeam services that you offer and your journey with Veeam along the years, because you've been front and center basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an exciting run since 2012, 2013. We've been partnered with Veeam on providing backup and disaster recovery in the cloud. And it's an amazing complement to our global infrastructure platform. I mean, that's really who we are as a company, is an infrastructure as a service business. And Veeam truly touches every corner of that business, right? From agents on bare metal to disaster recovery in the cloud from on-prem, right? And every use case in the middle of that. And I love this story with Make-A-Wish because, they really truly use so many PhoenixNAP and Veeam technologies to accomplish their mission. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go.
Yeah, and just a little bit about, what are you seeing in the world with regards to, especially in this modern time, say 2020. I having worked in the industry myself before I joined Veeam, I remember the GFC, and I was a young pup then, right? But in 2008-9, hosted exchange was just taking off. But the GFC kind of reached down and grabbed everyone into the SaaS world, right? And pulled them in, and started to see an uptake of those sorts of services, because people had to divert funding from capital to operational expense. What have you guys seen this year with regards to the uptake for cloud services, just as a side note?
I mean, this year specifically has just been this very abrupt transition, right? And I think, like you said, Danny talked a lot about this massive change that everybody's being thrust into. I don't want to say forced, because I feel like the momentum was already there. People wanted to do this, right? But they were struggling to find priority. And this year has created a priority for a lot of businesses to protect their data better, to manage their data better, right? And to truly achieve resiliency and availability in the cloud.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. And so obviously, what's exciting you about, the Veeam service provider technologies? I mean, you know very well that Veeam is so focused on, offering features and enhancements to support our cloud providers. And, more and more, we are definitely leveraging you guys to deliver great technology. But what excites you about the platform in terms of, where it's going? I mean, are you guys leveraging object storage for your disaster recovery? Are you looking at replication? Where's it going for you guys?
I mean, that is also kind of a cool part about, the partnership between Veeam and PHOENIXNAP is our infrastructure platform is so diverse and broad, right? The answer to your question is almost always yes, right? Are we leveraging Veeam integrated with vCloud Director? Yes. Or Cloud Director, sorry. Are you?
Yeah, got to drop the V.
Yeah. Are we leveraging Veeam with, immutable worm-based object storage? Yes, right?
Yeah.
Disaster recovery between cloud locations? Absolutely. So the most exciting things, I mean, for us, I'm excited about, upcoming agent enhancements, upcoming service provider console enhancements. And I think, ultimately, as the use case develops, the CBT replication. I mean, those are the things.
Yeah.
Like, those are the big ones.
Good stuff. So let's now, okay, so with that, that's a balance. Because I think what you just mentioned, what you talked about, I think, Bipin probably can come back in here. Now we can chat a little bit more into the actual reality of what it is to Make-A-Wish survive modern day infrastructure and Bipin this digital transformation journey. Because when I look at these numbers, these are not small numbers, right? These are significant terabytes of data that you guys move and shift and need to be protected. So Bipin, maybe just chat a little bit about the reality of these numbers and what they mean.
Sure. And it was interesting, this is, coming from a for-profit world into nonprofit. When I saw these numbers too, it was like, wow, this is big. And it has definitely gone back to your session, early discussion about the notion of data growth. Definitely, it's been accelerating in the last 5 years. And keep in mind, I mean, as much as we grant wishes, one of the things that we leverage to grant the wishes is to tell stories, and the storytelling is done through videos and basically graphical products which take up a lot of space. And again, like I said, it's 60 different business units almost pumping in data on a daily basis. So looking at the number, 66 terabyte of production data and 460 terabyte of backup. Why do we need so much? Do we really need so much of backup? We do go back to tell old stories. We still have stories from 1980 when we started and these visuals are very powerful, and hence the reason for us to have that. We've as William said, rightfully said, it's been a great partnership. They leverage and they bring forward to us the latest and greatest what Veeam can offer, and push us into business use cases probably we hadn't thought about. Right now, if you ask me some numbers perspective from a business model, 100% of reliable backup, which is we've never used to, we had never done backups, and that was a big risk. And so we are right now doing 100% of our backup completely using Veeam. It makes it easier from a we run close to around 350 VMs. So taking those backups, making things available for chapters is very easily done. From an RTO perspective, it's much shorter RTOs. I'm running with a very lean team as with any nonprofit, and having these tool sets available to us is really important. From that perspective.
Yeah. And so, William, maybe just explain the quick setup. We've got about 5 minutes left. So let's just talk a little bit about the setup and how it is leveraging that sort of multi-hybrid cloud situation, right? And then how the Veeam technologies come into play from a service provider perspective.
Absolutely. And I think that, this is the key environment, use case that we're targeting as a business. And, when customers are able to maximize the investments that they want to make from a capital perspective, cloud-based consumption of data, as you see on the left, they have a hybrid extension between their vSphere operated by Make-A-Wish and cloud services operated by PNAP. And that's a layer 2 extension. And they can just scale into that cloud-based service anytime they want. Then we have a unified data protection scheme between the cloud-based data and the on-prem data center-based data. And we're leveraging Veeam to replicate all of that data to another region on the East Coast so that we can quickly spin up not only their on-prem or managed via the Make-A-Wish managed vSphere environment, but also their cloud-based VMs all in one single location, one destination for DR.
That's awesome. And recently, I believe there was a situation. Now, everyone talks about this as the kind of quintessential example, but there was a situation where a hurricane came into play for one of the chapters, and you had to kind of do a bit of a migration or a replica situation. Bipin, you just want to quickly talk about that and how that was a real world example of putting into play what you practiced.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had a couple of situations. Take it during the hurricane, Maria in Puerto Rico last year, or recently with hurricane season in the East Coast, when most of our chapters on the East Coast were down, power was down. And for some of the big chapters, we actually run a local server model too, where they can quickly access it rather than taking multiple hops. So a couple of big chapters like New Jersey, for example, they were down for 4 days. No power, everybody working from home. What made it a little complicated was they were going into a wish gala and a wish reveal during that weekend, and it was their assumption was, wow, we're not able to access many of these records. But just a quick call back to our team, talked about, hey, we need everything up. Is there any way? Of course, using our Ashburn facility or our Phoenix, we were able to quickly spin up a VM specifically for them and bring all of their data. And kid you not, I mean, we talk about time, probably took less than half a day to coordinate the whole thing on a Thursday for everything happening on Saturday. From that perspective, it was ROI all over the place for us. There was nothing, and we use it for multiple reasons. As much as said, backup and replication is one. We use it as a risk mitigation for any ransomware protection models too. That is mine that comes to us. We also use it for integrations testing, UAT. If we need to quickly spin up a VM with production data, we use it for that too. So multiple use cases that come to our.
That sounds like you're leveraging the best of all the technologies that PhoenixNAP and Veeam has to offer. So suffice to say, William, I kind of see the future here, like some upgraded designs, which might include, I don't know, CDP as an example, because if you want to drive those low RPOs between sites, that's going to be a great thing. And while that's not a service provider feature off the bat, if you're doing vCenter to vCenter private cloud, that's going to be a great use case for it. So I can see that in Bipin's future and your future in terms of leveraging that technology. Well, that's awesome, guys. We could talk for hours, but we've got 30 minutes live. So we've got a couple of minutes left. Bipin, thank you very much for the insights. Make-A-Wish are indeed a great example of data growth, data living on the edge, being created everywhere, and also data that's incredibly critical, right? Sure. And all being handled and backed up and looked after by one of our great service providers in PhoenixNAP. So thanks for that, guys. And look, just for the guys out there, I just want to leave you with this link here as a bit of a takeaway. This is a link to the VCSP 10th anniversary podcast, which goes through what all the VCSP is about, the program, how you can get on board as a provider, and give a little bit of the history around it. So with that, we're going to basically end it here. Please, there's more sessions to come. One that I want to call out specifically, if you are live, hang around for another few hours. I am going to be doing it. I'll be delivering it at 3 a.m. live. V11 top unannounced features. So it's going to be a great one. And we're going to talk, William, about some really cool new service provider features, which you know about, but the other people don't. So with that, I'd like to thank Bipin, thank William, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Bye.